Hello, everybody. I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and it's time for your Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, or just random Xenoblade Chronicles X hot takes. I asked for your hot takes pertaining to one of my most beloved games. That is finally being remembered by Nintendo and Monolith. Holy crap, I didn't think I would live to see the day. And you all provided me a wealth, a spring, if you will, of hot takes, and we're gonna go through them. Remember, I asked for this. You all delivered. And this is all just for fun. Now, let's get on into it, shall we? Now, I thought I was going crazy and that I may require institutionalization because of just how many people told me that Tatsu wasn't that bad. Buddy, it was like half the replies I got. I feel like I'm living in Crazy Town or something. But there was one interpretation that I thought, you know what? Let's talk about it. We have at Bad Latency 9979, me when I play an FPS game, who says my hottest take is that Tatsu is not the worst character because of the cooking jokes, but that Lin, that nerd, is because of the cooking jokes. Tatsu is just this little traitor trying not to get killed and eaten. Meanwhile, even in post-battle banter, Lin has nothing to say other than joke about eating Tatsu, and all her character development comes right before the final battle. She could geek out more being the mecha otaku she is, but nope! Almost all just stuff about killing and eating a guest party member. Tatsu himself, he gets a bad rap, completely undeserved. That's my hot take. And you know what? This is a damn good argument. No, like, genuinely speaking, I don't like Tatsu that much, but this is a really good argument that a lot of the blame for the cooking jokes is being placed on Tatsu and not the one making them Lin. And I think that's a really good point to make. Because, like, 95% of the time in Xenoblade X, for those who don't know, they love one joke, and if you've played Genshin, you've heard of emergency food with Paimon. Pretty much that with Tatsu, and the joke is that Lin wants to cook up and eat Tatsu as food. They repeat it like twice a quest. No, I'm not exaggerating. There's actually a scenario you have to do before each main quest that's just a glorified excuse to make a Tatsu as food joke. But it's really just Lin making the joke over and over and over again. And honestly, it's not like that bad. They get kind of creative with it. And I think there is a charm in that. And if I want to put my critic hat on, I would argue that realistically, like, yeah, it's fun to meme on Tatsu and all that. He's not like that bad, right? I just wouldn't put him on the tiers of, say, Riki, Tora, or even Riku and Manana. I almost called it Banana, I'm not even joking. But most of the time, he's just kind of cuddly and there. And he has a few sweet scenes near the end of the game as well. And I think any issues that one could take with Tatsu is more a symptom of the larger writing issue with Xenoblade X on the whole, and that is the pacing issue that is ingrained into this game, where a lot of the story is relegated to either side content or to like the second half of the main story, where it really picks up and like shockingly quickly and just ramps up and ramps up and ramps up and gets better and better and better. And a lot of those scenes where I appreciate Tatsu and he actually has some good ideas and strategies come in that like latter couple of chapters. And I think one of the reasons I never particularly minded Lin all that much was because she was at Mech Otaku, and if you provide me a giant robot in a video game, that is like the quickest, fastest, most ensured way to get into my S tier for characters out there. She is an intrinsic and integral part to the reason you get a Skell and eventually the flight upgrade. And look, if you provide me a giant robot, you're goated in my book. And if you want to make a few Tatsu as emergency food jokes, I'll let it slide. It's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. It's fun to meme on, don't get me wrong. But like, I wouldn't call Tatsu himself a good character, anything like that. But he's not this giant thorn in the side of Xenoblade X, draining any sense of fun or interest in the narrative going on. I think he's inoffensive at worst. But at the same time, I would punt that little jabroni across all of Mira. Like, give me the opportunity. I'll have people thinking it's overtime in the Super Bowl. I'll have Elma with her hands up in the air going, it's good. Now on to the next hot take that is totally not here just because of personal bias and that I tend to agree with it. Definitely not because of that reason. We have at Jack Suttle, Subletty 7493, who says, best combat, best exploration, Story's overhated. Xenoblade X was my first Xenoblade, same, so I'm more than likely biased, but it's just so damn fun. From the front to the back, let him cook! Because I do agree, I've played every Xenoblade game, and I do think X has the best combat. Takes a bit to get going, don't get me wrong, but when you get there, it is the best combat in my opinion. I'll take Overdrive over Chain Attacks any day of the week. It absolutely has the best exploration, and I don't think it's remotely close. Mainly because Xenoblade X is designed around exploration. It is an open world game through and through. The open world is the main bulk of the content in Xenoblade X. It is a gameplay forward and centric experience as opposed to Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, which I would argue are more narrative focused. And yeah, while I wouldn't say the story and the quality throughout is as good as 1, 2, or 3, I don't think it's as bad as some people make it out to be. And I would honestly argue that it is genuinely great. And I think the highs are right up there with Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. And honestly, I think Xenoblade X just tells its story in a different way to 1, 2, and 3, and I don't think it's any worse because of that, but gives it a charm all of its own. And I could yap more about this singular issue, but there's another hot take that I want to address that ties nicely as a segue into this overall discussion. We have at Nishquick Pops, not gonna lie, every time I see their name I think of Nesquick, who says that Mira is great, but it's just simply not as interesting in my opinion as Bionis, Mechonis, Allrest, and Ionios. It's still super cool, though, so that just speaks volumes to how amazing Xeno world building is, and yeah, I can get that, because like, at the end of the day, what you find more interesting is gonna be based on personal preference, and what kind of stories just simply resonate with you more. Nothing wrong with that, that's just like human nature and all that. For me, though, I would put Mira second on my list, right behind Allrest, because I'm a Xenoblade 2 nerd, right? And like, I love the visual vista of Xenoblade 1 with Bionis and Mechonis. And I think Ionios is really cool in theory and has some cool zones in it, but I wish there was a bit more with Ionios. I think it was a bit too tame in places. And I just love like Sky Continent, so all the rest really resonates with me. One of the reasons I really love Mira specifically is a unique advantage Mira has over Bionis, Mechonis, Allrest, and Ionios. It's something that Mira provides that these other locations simply don't, that really resonates with me. And that is that the story of Mira is not over. Like, if we never got a follow-up to Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, I wouldn't be particularly upset. I want a follow-up, don't get me wrong, I've been yapping about Xenoblade 4 for ages. However, the story of Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 largely is wrapped up with a nice bow. The story of X is not. For those who aren't familiar, Xenoblade X ends with a massive cliffhanger, where they pretty much reveal where the story could go in the future, and that there's a lot, especially in regards to Mira as a location, to uncover and explore. We just haven't gotten that, and the game came out in like 2015, and it's like 9 years later, pushing 10, and we still haven't gotten anything. We will with Xenoblade X Definitive Edition though, so I'm looking forward to that. But still, when it concerns Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, those locations and those stories were designed to be, like, begun, expanded on, developed, and concluded within the confines of their respective games. For me, with Xenoblade X, it was readily apparent once I beat it that it was designed to be a more long-term project and a location that would unravel, that would provide mysteries for years and years and years, and we just never got that other installment for Xenoblade X to follow it up. So, whereas Bionis, Mechonis, Allrest, and Ionios, for the most part, especially for Ionios, are wrapped up. Like, if we get a Xenoblade 4, that location would be fundamentally different than Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. Those stories, those set pieces, those locations are finished. Mira's isn't. So to me, in certain ways, it's like comparing a finished cake to batter that's still in the bowl. It's like, in this present moment, yeah, I would want to eat the cake that's actually out the oven and finished and edible. But I'm looking at the ingredients and how well Mira is being baked, and where it can go from here, and my mouth is watering. It's simply not done yet. And I think I'm a big sci-fi nerd at heart, and I love sci-fi that presents a giant mystery and these grandiose locations, and that's what Mira largely represents. There's still so much that can and should be done with that location. And for me, I kind of have two definitions for what my favorite thing is overall, whether it be a favorite character or location, and that is, When I look back on it, this is like definition 1, when I look back on it, what was my favorite there? What gave me the best memories? What resonated the most with me? Etc, etc, etc. My other one is, okay, well, if I were to be shown this again and be given something new in regards to this, how would that make me feel compared to the others? It's like when I look back on the character of Rex, he's my favorite character in Xenoblade. I really resonated with his character arc, his development, his overall vibe. But his story is also pretty much done. You can put a pin in it and I'd be satisfied. And when I'm looking to the future, I'm like, whose story do I most want to see expanded on and fleshed out in the future? It's Elma's. So in that context, and through that lens, Elma is my favorite Xenoblade character. The same applies to Mira. It's one of the reasons I'm super excited for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, because I love Mira and I want to see more of it. Because I am not satisfied with what we have currently, I want more. And I think at this current moment, I am more excited and invested in Mira as a location than I personally am with, say, Bionis, Mechonis, Ionios. I like those locations for different reasons, but as a package whole, Mira is one of my favorite locations in any game. Now, having said that, again, an interesting segue into this next hot take, and we have at 4wheel here with an A, who says, Xenoblade Chronicles X should remain its own thing and not be tied into the story of the main series. I'm in like two minds about this. I think the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'm legitimately fine with either way, because this has been a theory for the longest time. Is Xenoblade X canonical to Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3? And at this point, also Xenosaga. And debates have waged, nerds have like scrutinized these stories a lot, and I've consistently fallen under the opinion where I'm like, if they want to make it canon, they have plenty of ways to make it canon. Especially with the big takeaway of Xenoblade X being basically everything we know about Xenoblade X is wrong. Like, we end Xenoblade X with way more mysteries than we started it with, and we're pretty much operating under the assumption that, like, okay, everything we thought we knew, and even things that we currently think are probably still true, are probably wrong, or we're missing some key piece of context. I think there are ways to tie it into Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 and Saga in an interesting way to make it engaging and compelling into the future, especially with new stories that you could tell there. But I also wouldn't be particularly upset if they want to keep X separate as its own separate entity that they can work on and throw different ideas at that wouldn't work for, say, a numbered Xenoblade game, but that would work for X. I personally wouldn't be upset about that. I think X can absolutely stand on its own 2 feet and be compelling and be engaging. I also did the Elma quests in Xenoblade 2 because she was I think she was a DLC blade or she was mainline, I forget which one. She was a blade in Xenoblade 2 and she had a quest line. And it was cool seeing these characters interact with each other. And it's like, opinions will be opinions and people will have them. For me though, if they want to keep X by itself, I'm not going to be upset. And if they want to bring it into canon, I'm cool with that as well. We've been starving for Xenoblade X stuff for so long. At this point, I'm just hungry. I just want food. I'm not going to be picky if you give me a sandwich or if you give me soup or if you give me a steak. I just want food and I want to consume said food. Does that make sense? I'm on a roll, by the way, with these segues, even when I don't intend them. The next hot take, at Elijah Morningwood, great name, by the way, the eating Tatsu jokes are funny every time. To me, it's like a symptom of a larger issue that I have with the internet sometimes, where they take a joke and they just repeat it every 2 seconds, and like within a day, it gets really old, but people just keep spamming the same exact joke over and over and over again. Like, I'm on TikTok, by the way, and if you ever read TikTok comments, like, they're really funny the first couple of times you see them, but then you get like to the 50th video on the same topic and people make the same 3 jokes over and over and over, and it's like, please, can we please just make another joke? I'm begging you, I'm on bended knee over here, please. And that's kind of the vibe I get with the Tatsu jokes in Xenoblade X, where it's like funny a couple of times, but it's so used. And if it was like one of many jokes they threw at you, that'd be one thing, but it's just so consistent. I will say though, they do get creative. Like, before each main mission you embark on in Xenoblade X, you can create or choose what kind of food you want to eat because Lyn is the cook. And besides besides being a binging with Babish episode in the making, they use these jokes, or these like food scenarios, to always insert a Tatsu as food joke before each mainline mission. And they also sometimes throw in a joke during the mission itself. It's like, I'll give them props for being creative with just how many ways they can take this joke. And look, I'm not gonna be a stick in the mud. Sometimes they can be pretty funny. It's just like, yeah, I can love chocolate cake, but if you give me 5 cakes to eat within a day, I'm gonna get sick of it. Now we have our final take of the day. We have at SD Chowick, who says, I hate Skell combat. I'm going to brush my tongue out with soap after that. I love Skells for exploration, thumbs up, but I hate fighting with them. Skells usually have fewer odds with longer cooldowns, so fights feel slower and more boring, and fighting with Skells uses up Miranium, which is a resource in the game for those who don't know. Yeah, I get this. It's one of my bigger, more systemic issues with Xenoblade X. I don't know why they made Skell combat that slow at times, especially early on before you farm out a lot of your really powerful Skell weapons. For those who don't know, Skells are composed of various parts, and depending upon what part you put on your Skell, because they're customizable like that, you get different arts to utilize in combat. Some are really cool, like Phoenix Wings, where you just erupt in a veil of fire that extends out over a giant radius and does a ton of AoE damage. It's awesome. You get this like sword blade on a whip that you just slash around, or like missile silos, swords, like Wolverine claws called katars. It's really cool. And sometimes you can proc the ability to where it will zoom in on your pilot in the cockpit and refresh the cooldown on all of your arts, which is like a blessing from God, because oh my freaking God. Yeah, I understand this take at the end of the day. Skell combat can be very slow. That is one thing I really hope they speed up when it comes to Definitive Edition. Like, it's a balancing act, don't get me wrong, and I get it, you want the weight of the Skell to be felt in combat, but like, when you give me 8 buttons and they have long cooldowns each, it just means I'm standing there holding my controller doing nothing for a non-insignificant chunk of time, and that's not fun. I would like it to be expedited or just sped up a bit. That would be nice. Or just give me access to even more like Skell pots so that I can have more arts equipped as an interesting like balancing act. That could be fun. And yeah, Skells use fuel. You regenerate fuel by just like standing there outside of your Skell and not moving around with it. Or you can like refuel back to your barracks for, I believe it's Miranium, which is a resource you passively accumulate because of the nodes you place over the open world. You don't really feel that mechanic till late game when you get really powerful Skell abilities that chew through fuel, but it is one of those rough patches that I think should be sanded down and smoothed out for Definitive Edition just to make the game overall more pleasurable and a better experience. Like, I get the idea for the development of this balancing act is so that you feel incentivized not to spend all of your time in the Skell. My retort to that would be, who asked? Let me be my giant robot, please. Okay, thanks. Because you don't know true fear until you're fighting a boss and you accidentally aggro a bunch of smaller enemies and you see the health bar of your party and even your own Skell deplete. So you desperately either try and fly away or get out of your Skell as fast as humanly possible. Because if you break your Skell, you have to repair it, which costs credits. And it's not a small amount either. It's actually this interesting magic trick you can perform in Xenoblade X, where it's like, the more your Skell's HP dwindles, the more and more food stamps start to appear in your hand, because you're gonna be spending all your money in-game repairing the blasted things. But having said that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And leave your own hot takes in regards to Xenoblade Chronicles X in the comments down below, and maybe you will be selected to be brought into the proverbial arena next time. If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.